You were the architect of your life, long before you ever took your first breath. This path you're on, it's not random. You didn't just drop into this world by accident, tossed into a messy, chaotic existence with no guide, no purpose, no way. You agreed to this. Long before your body ever formed, before your name was chosen, before the first person ever laid eyes on you, you said yes. You chose this. The joy, the heartbreak, the loss, the breakthroughs, the relationships that would challenge you, the moments that would break you open. Why? Because your soul knew there was something it came here to do, a mission, a sacred contract written outside of time itself, a blueprint etched into your very being. And then you forgot. But not by accident. You didn't forget because you messed up or got lazy. You forgot because that was part of the plan. That forgetting? That's what sets up the remembering. And remembering, that's where everything starts to click. Right now, there's something stirring inside you. A whisper. A feeling that there's more. That your life isn't just about getting through the day, paying bills, chasing status, or surviving stress. No, you're here to remember. Because the moment you begin to remember, the whole thing starts to make sense. The pain you went through, the loops you've been caught in, the people you couldn't let go of or couldn't understand why they hurt you. None of that was random. You didn't forget by chance. You chose to forget. And that choice wasn't a mistake. It was a spiritual decision, made so you could discover the truth, not just know it. And that truth lives beyond the veil. What's the veil? Well, ancient mystics and spiritual traditions have always described it as a kind of metaphysical boundary. Not a curtain you can pull back, but a layer between the infinite awareness of your soul and the limited, filtered experience of being human. Before you entered this life, you remembered everything, all your past lives, your soul family, your higher self, the purpose for being here. But if you brought all that knowledge into this life, it would have ruined the whole point. Because without the forgetting, there's no free will, no real learning, no choosing, no power in the discovery. You had to lose the map so you could find your own way back. So you stepped into this incarnation with amnesia, not because you were tricked, but because you were brave. That forgetfulness, it's not a flaw in the system, it's the system. Forgetting lets you fall, get up, wonder, question, get lost, and then find your way back to something so deep and true that it changes you forever. Because remembering is a kind of magic, not the head-level kind where you recall facts. It's soul-level. It's the kind of knowing that lives in your bones, your dreams, your feelings. And that's where you are now. You're not learning something new. You're reactivating something ancient. The ache you feel? That longing? That itch you can't quite name? That's your soul knocking from the other side of the veil. It's not saying, go get more info. It's saying, remember who you are. But let's get real. The veil doesn't just drop once at birth and then vanish. It's constantly maintained, every day, by systems, screens, schedules, expectations, conditioning. You're taught from birth to look outward, to trust only what you can measure, prove, or explain. But the deepest truth, they live inside, in your gut, your instincts, your dreams, your weird feelings you can't explain. And the veil stays strong because of disbelief. Because you were told, this is it, this is all there is. Break that belief, and the veil starts to thin. Here's the twist. All the stuff that makes you feel like you're off track, the cycles, the chaos, the patterns you can't escape, they're not curses, they're breadcrumbs, triggers you planted in your own story to help guide you back. So when things repeat, when you keep meeting the same kind of person, hitting the same wall, facing the same fear, it's not failure, it's your soul tugging at your sleeve, asking, are you ready to remember? And when you finally start seeing the patterns, questioning the roles you play, noticing what keeps looping, you're already pulling at the threads of memory. Slowly, the veil begins to lift. Not all at once, just enough. You feel flashes. You catch glimpses. You don't remember with your brain. You remember with your soul. If you're feeling that right now, you're not alone. And if you want to go even deeper, beyond what we can say on this platform, we've created something just for that. That's what Insights Academy is all about, our free newsletter where we go deeper, share what we can't post here, and even give you a free digital copy of the Kabbalion just for joining. Links down below. But back to you, because when you start remembering, your life shifts. What used to feel random begins to reveal meaning. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to show me?" And when that shift happens, even your hardest moments become sacred. Not because they're fun, but because they're aligned. You remember that nothing in your life was wasted, not a tear, not a failure, not even the pain. You're not lost, you're not broken, you're just remembering. And when you remember, you stop waiting for life to happen to you. You become the author again. Your life has been whispering to you from the start. The question is, have you been listening? We tend to look for signs in the big moments, the dramatic ones, the miracles, the crazy coincidences, the vivid dreams that shake us to our core. But here's the truth most people miss. The real signs? They're subtle. They live in the everyday, in the ordinary. They hide in plain sight, like a song playing faintly in the background of your life, waiting for you to notice the melody. These signs are built into the fabric of your day-to-day existence. They live in the tension you feel in certain relationships, in the emotion that rises up out of nowhere, in the job that drains your spirit, even when it pays well. You don't need to study the stars or dive into ancient texts to find guidance. It's already here. You planted it. Before you ever got here, your soul dropped breadcrumbs along the path, triggers, nudges, echoes to help you find your way back when you started to drift. But most of us were trained to ignore them. From childhood, we're told to be practical, logical, realistic. We're taught to trust what we can touch, calculate, and explain. But your soul, it doesn't speak that language. It communicates through patterns, through feelings, through synchronicities that don't make sense on paper, but feel undeniably real. Ever notice how certain numbers show up when you're thinking about making a big decision? Or how you keep bumping into the same person in totally different places? Or how you walk into a place you've never been and feel this eerie sense of familiarity? That's not random. That's not coincidence. That's your contract trying to get your attention. Start by looking at the patterns in your life. What keeps showing up? What emotional experiences seem to wear different costumes but carry the same energy? Maybe it's a constant sense of betrayal, or abandonment, or the nagging feeling that you're never quite enough, no matter what you accomplish. These aren't curses. These are portals. They repeat because your soul is trying to lead you back to the lesson you came here to learn. Every loop is a knock on the door of awareness, a message asking, "Are you ready now? Are you finally willing to look deeper?" We often take these cycles personally. We think they mean something's wrong with us, that we're broken, cursed, doomed to repeat the same heartache. But your soul doesn't see it that way. It doesn't waste pain. If something is recurring, it means the wisdom inside that experience hasn't been fully claimed yet. And it's not just the situations, it's the people too. You know the ones who light something up in you, or the ones who make your blood boil. The people who trigger you, who inspire you, who confuse you, who pull you in even when you want to run the other way. These people are not random, they are soul allies. Some came to love you, some came to mirror you, some came to challenge you. All of them are part of your story. You agreed to meet them. Even the ones who hurt you, especially the ones who hurt you. Not because pain is the goal, but because transformation is. Your greatest growth often lives in the relationships that crack you open the most. So next time someone triggers a strong reaction in you, whether it's anger, sadness, jealousy, or confusion, don't rush to fix it or suppress it. Pause. Get curious. Ask yourself, why does this person pull this out of me? What are they showing me about myself that I haven't been willing to see? Because your emotional triggers aren't flaws. They're maps. If your soul didn't care, it wouldn't react. But if something stings or shakes you, it's not a punishment, it's a message. Remember. That's what your soul keeps whispering through these moments. Remember. And then there are the dreams. Not just the random ones where you're flying or running from shadowy monsters, but the ones that stick with you, the ones that feel too real to be made up. That recurring stranger, that temple in a place you've never visited, that symbol that keeps showing up over and over. Dreams are one of the few places where your conscious mind gets quiet enough for your soul to speak clearly. Ancient mystics knew this. They didn't treat dreams like meaningless noise. They treated them as sacred doorways. Night after night, your soul tries to bring you fragments of your original agreement. Messages wrapped in metaphor. Invitations to remember. But this isn't about turning your dreams into puzzles. It's not about overanalyzing every detail. It's about pattern recognition, emotional resonance, the willingness to feel and listen, because the soul doesn't speak in complete sentences. It speaks in feeling, in knowing, in the pull you can't explain and the ache you can't ignore. The more you slow down, the more you listen, the louder those signs become. The universe doesn't shout. It waits. And the moment you say, "I'm ready," it starts speaking in ways you can't unhear. It shows up in the book that falls off the shelf, in the lyric that hits you like a punch to the chest, in the conversation you didn't expect to have, in the truth you needed to hear, right when you needed to hear it. That's not chance. That's design. That's memory disguised as coincidence. And your soul contract? It's not hidden in the stars. It's right here, right now, written into the rhythms of your life, into the tears, the tension, the unexpected joy, and the sudden clarity. Once you start recognizing the signs for what they really are, you stop feeling like life is happening to you. You start remembering that you were the one who wrote this script. There's a voice inside you. It's always been there. Soft, steady, unshaken by the chaos of the world. You might call it your intuition, your gut, your inner knowing. But if we're being honest, it's more than that. It's memory. Not the kind stored in your brain, not the facts you memorize or the stories you tell yourself. This is soul memory, the kind that lives deeper than thought, the kind that whispers through your emotions, your instincts, your sudden clarity in moments when logic fails you. It's the memory of who you were before the world told you who to be. And here's the beautiful truth. No matter how loud the world gets, that voice never stops. It waits, patiently, for the noise to fade, for the masks to slip, for you to get quiet enough to hear it again. You were never meant to navigate this life completely blind. The forgetting, that was part of the design, but so was the map back. And the ancient mystics knew this, the ones who walked between the seen and unseen, who left behind clues, tools, practices to help us find our way home. One of those mystics was Thoth, scribe of the gods, keeper of cosmic wisdom. His teachings weren't just poetic metaphors, they were methods, instructions, techniques to help you remember, not just who you are, but why you're here. And that's what we're leaning into now. It starts with one core truth. Your intuition is not optional. It's not a luxury or a spiritual nice to have. It is your direct line to the soul, the bridge between your human experience and your divine blueprint. You felt it before. That gut feeling that told you not to trust someone, and you were right. That quiet nudge that pulled you toward a new city, a strange practice, a person you couldn't stop thinking about, and everything changed after. That moment when everything in your body screamed yes, while your mind was still trying to catch up. That's not coincidence. That's your soul speaking through you. And when your soul speaks, it's not random, it's intentional. Every pull, every hesitation, every deep attraction, it's part of the contract waking up beneath the surface. But to fully access that wisdom, you've got to go deeper. You've got to get still. You've got to break through the noise of logic, emotion, programming, and fear. You've got to remember how to listen, not to the world, but to the part of you that helped write this life in the first place. That's where Thoth's method becomes a key. His teachings were rooted in the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, as within, so without. Which means the path to remembering your soul contract doesn't start out there, it starts in here. You want to remember why you came. You want to access that original mission. Then you've got to create space. Not more knowledge, not more hustle. Space. Space for your inner wisdom to rise. That's why one of the most powerful tools on this journey is regressive meditation. And no, we're not talking about imagining yourself on a beach or picturing white light. This is deep soul work. Regressive meditation lets you travel, not just through the memories of this life, but beyond them. It's a practice that takes you back to the moments before you were born, when your soul sat with guides, with light beings, and mapped out the major milestones of your Earth experience. These aren't fantasies. They're impressions buried beneath the surface, waiting to be unlocked. In these meditations, you don't learn. You remember, you reconnect, you revisit the choices you made before stepping into this body. And you begin to understand the reasons behind your most defining struggles, not just emotionally, but energetically. Another piece of Thoth's method? Symbolic dream work. This isn't just about decoding your dreams for fun. It's about understanding that your dreams are portals. Every symbol holds frequency. Every recurring image is a key. Water in your dream? That's not just water. It could represent intuition, emotional flow, subconscious movement. A staircase? That might be ascension, transition, layers of awareness. These aren't random visuals. They're signatures from your higher self, embedded in the only language the ego can't control, symbols. And when you begin to track these symbols, not analyze them to death, but sit with them, feel them, notice their patterns, your dreams start forming a map, a living archive of your soul's messages. That's why keeping a dream journal isn't just a spiritual suggestion. It's a sacred act, not because dreams are fun to explore, but because your soul chose to speak this way. Chose to leave you breadcrumbs when your waking mind wasn't paying attention. But even beyond meditation and dreams, there's a form of remembrance that most people overlook. Solitude. Real solitude. Not isolation. Not scrolling on your phone alone, but stillness, silence. A moment where you're not doing, not performing, not fixing, just being. In a world that profits off your distraction, stillness becomes rebellion. And in that rebellion, your soul finds its voice again. Answers may not come in lightning bolts, but they will come. A memory here, a feeling there, and slowly, like a puzzle assembling itself, the picture begins to reveal itself. And here's the raw part. Remembering your soul contract isn't always peaceful. It's not always graceful. Sometimes it's uncomfortable as hell. Because when you remember who you really are, you also see everything you're not. You have to face the masks, the roles, the conditioning you've carried for years. You have to let them fall. That's the real work. Not adding more to who you are, but uncovering who you've always been underneath it all. Your path isn't about finding something out there. It's about trusting what's already in you. Your intuition is the map. Your dreams are the compass, and Thoth's teachings. They're the key. You don't need a guru. You don't need a savior. You just need to remember. Because the one who wrote this story was always you. It's easy to look at your life and think it's just random. A string of moments. Some good, some bad. A few wins. A few epic losses. People coming and going. Things working out. Things falling apart. It can all feel like chaos, like you're spinning the wheel and hoping something finally clicks. But what if it's not chaos at all? What if the things that keep showing up, the stuff you can't seem to shake, the pain, the heartbreak, the setbacks, they're not failures? What if they're messages? See, your soul doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in cycles, It repeats themes. It uses emotion as a highlighter. The things you keep bumping up against. They're not just bad luck. They're the coded signals built into your soul contract to wake you up. That's how the contract works. It doesn't just speak through intuition or dreams. It speaks through experience, through repetition. That relationship pattern you've repeated 3 times with 3 different faces? That job you keep burning out in no matter how much it pays? That sense of not being enough no matter how much you achieve? These aren't curses. They're breadcrumbs, markers, portals. They were placed there by you before you were born. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the lessons your soul came here to master are often wrapped inside your most persistent struggles. This is what we mean when we say you wrote this. The point was never to create a life of ease. It was to create a life of meaning. A path designed with friction in just the right places to awaken you, to challenge you, to shape you into someone capable of holding the truth. That's why your contract feels more like a rhythm than a roadmap. And the Hermetic teachings from Thoth make this crystal clear. They tell us about the principle of rhythm, that everything moves in cycles, that nothing is static, that all of life is rise and fall, ebb and flow, dark and light. So if you find yourself back in the same loop, the same emotional story, the same inner resistance, it's not a glitch in the matrix, it's the rhythm. But most of us don't see it that way. We think something's wrong, that we've messed up, that we're broken. We get frustrated that we're still struggling with the same issues, that the healing isn't done, that we haven't moved on. But your soul doesn't view these things as setbacks. It sees them as reminders. Think back. What's the thing you've struggled with the most consistently in your life? Is it the fear of being left, the shame of never measuring up, the need to be perfect to feel loved, the deep belief that you don't belong? Whatever it is, that recurring emotion, that persistent trigger, it's not your weakness, it's your portal. It's the thing your soul chose to wrestle with in this life. Not because you're flawed, but because that wound holds the key to your deepest awakening. And the moment you stop trying to escape it and start leaning in, that's when everything shifts. That's when the pain transforms. Not by disappearing, but by revealing its purpose. Thoth called this self-recovery, the act of walking back through your own fire, not skipping over the hard stuff, not pretending it didn't hurt, but reclaiming it, integrating it, owning it as part of your divine design. That's why ritual matters, not because it's magical, but because it's intentional. When you create space for reflection, when you set time aside to look at your patterns and say, okay, what am I repeating? What did I come here to master? You start listening at a deeper level. You don't analyze your life like a spreadsheet. You honor it like a sacred text. Light a candle, close your eyes, ask the question, and write. Let your patterns reveal themselves, not so you can judge them, but so you can learn from them. Because here's the part most people miss. Your contract isn't buried in some ancient temple or dusty scroll. It's right here. In your day-to-day life, in your relationships, in your choices, in the things that trigger you, in the talents you ignore, in the voice inside that says, there's more than this. Most people run from those signals. They assume if something hurts, it must be wrong. But your soul doesn't work that way. Pain isn't punishment. Pain is a messenger. And when you stop numbing the messenger, the message gets through. So if you feel stuck, like you've been circling the same problem, dealing with the same emotions, hitting the same walls, pause, take a step back, and ask, what if this isn't the detour? What if this is the path? What if you're not off course? What if you're exactly where you're meant to be, because your soul built this moment into your plan? You didn't come here to avoid pain. You came here to transmute it, to take the heavy and turn it into healing, to take the wound and turn it into wisdom. That's evolution. That's soul growth. And it doesn't begin with fixing your life. It begins with understanding it. When you start seeing your story through the lens of your soul contract, power returns. You stop feeling like a victim of your circumstances. You start becoming the author of them. And that shift, that remembering, is what brings you back to your truth. Before you ever entered this lifetime, your soul packed a bag, not a literal one, but an energetic toolkit filled with everything you'd need to navigate this life. Gifts, instincts, quirks, passions, deep, intuitive capacities, all specifically chosen to help you fulfill your mission, walk your path, and face your unique set of challenges. But here's the catch. The world you were born into wasn't built to recognize those gifts. In fact, it probably trained you to ignore them. Think about it. You came into this world curious, sensitive, creative, full of wonder. You felt deeply. You saw things other people didn't. You asked questions that adults didn't always have answers for. And what happened? You were told you were too sensitive, too intense, too emotional, too quiet, too loud, too different. So little by little, you started trimming yourself down. You tucked away the parts of you that didn't fit. You learned to play roles, to earn approval, to blend in. You weren't being taught to trust yourself. You were being taught to conform. And now here you are, maybe successful on the surface, maybe hitting the milestones, maybe doing all the right things, but still feeling like something's missing, like something's off. That's not failure. That's feedback. Your soul is tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, "You've drifted too far from the design." Because those parts of you that were criticized, the ones you were told to outgrow or tone down, they weren't flaws, they were fingerprints, traces of your soul contract, evidence of the unique energy you came here to embody. You weren't meant to be like everyone else, because your mission isn't like everyone else's. Your blueprint doesn't look like a 5-year plan. It doesn't show up in job titles or degrees or followers. It shows up in joy, in fascination, in the pull you feel towards certain people, topics, places, ideas, even if you can't explain why. That pull, that's your compass. Think back to when you were a kid. What made you lose track of time? What lit you up for no reason? What made you feel alive? Was it drawing, storytelling, being in nature, helping others, tinkering with machines, creating imaginary worlds in your mind? Those weren't just hobbies, they were clues. They were reminders of the energy you came to express in this life. And when you feel disconnected, lost, burned out, it's often because you've abandoned those original threads. You've strayed from your own design. Even the traits people criticized, your empathy, your independence, your sensitivity, your ability to feel too much, those were gifts, weapons of awakening. They were put inside you to help you fulfill your role. And the further you move away from them, the more your life starts to feel like someone else's. That's why people can reach every goal society celebrates and still feel empty. Because they've built a life around themselves, not from themselves. Society rewards sameness, but craves authenticity. It tells you to be unique, but only in ways that don't make others uncomfortable. So we edit ourselves. We shrink. We perform. We bury the very things that made us powerful. But your gifts haven't disappeared. They've just gone dormant, waiting for you to give them permission to come back. And here's the shift. The moment you start honoring those parts of yourself, the ones you thought were too much, life begins to move differently. Suddenly, resistance fades. Energy returns. Decisions become clearer. The right people start showing up. Opportunities arise without force. Why? Because you're no longer fighting your design. You're finally living it. You stop chasing someone else's version of success and start embodying your soul's version of truth. And yes, it might look different. It might be unconventional. It might not fit neatly into a LinkedIn bio or a polite dinner conversation. But that's exactly the point. You weren't put here to be digestible. You were put here to be impactful. And nothing shakes a system more than a person who trusts their gifts and walks their own path. So stop asking if your passion is practical. Stop wondering if your creativity is valid. Stop shrinking your light to make others comfortable. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out. Your gifts aren't distractions from your path. They are your path. They're the tools your soul packed for this mission, specifically chosen for the challenges you knew you'd face and the healing you knew you'd offer. But no one can activate them for you. You have to claim them. Start small. Revisit the things you used to love before the world told you to grow up. Follow your curiosity. Let joy lead you, not as a luxury, but as a lighthouse guiding you back to yourself. Because when you stop waiting for permission to be yourself, you realize something powerful. You never needed it. You're not late. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just remembering. And the more you remember, the more you return to your original path, the one you chose, the one you designed, the one your soul has been waiting for you to walk all along. There's a place that exists beyond time, beyond words, beyond logic, beyond the five senses. A field of intelligence so vast, so intimate, that it holds not just the story of this life, but every story your soul has ever lived. You may have heard whispers of it in ancient traditions, the Akashic records, the Book of Life, the Hall of Memory. Different names, same truth. But don't get lost in the metaphor. This isn't just some mystical idea floating in space. It's real. Not real in the way you touch a wall or hold a pen. Real in the way that déjà vu stops you in your tracks. Real in the way a dream haunts you for days, or a stranger's eyes feel like home. Real in the way you know something without knowing how you know it. That's the Akasha. And whether you realize it or not, you've already been there. Every time you sense a familiarity you can't explain. Every time your intuition tells you something long before logic catches up. Every time you feel drawn to a certain place, culture, practice, or person for no reason at all. That's not fantasy. That's a footstep in the field. Because your soul doesn't just carry memories, it carries knowledge, contracts, agreements, unfinished lessons, echoes from lives you don't consciously remember, but your soul never forgot. And this is where Thoth's teachings become a compass, not to show you something new, but to remind you of what you already know. According to Hermetic wisdom, the Akashic records are not a library in the clouds. They are a living structure woven into the very fabric of reality. Everything, every thought, emotion, action, intention is recorded. Not to judge you, not to shame you, but to reflect you. Because the Akasha isn't punitive, it's a mirror, one that allows your soul to see itself clearly so it can evolve consciously. And that's the shift. Your soul contract isn't theory, it's not symbolic poetry. It's written, it's recorded, it's accessible, but not by someone else, by you. You don't need a high priestess. You don't need a gatekeeper. The Akasha doesn't respond to titles, it responds to resonance. You don't try to reach it, you align with it. You create space, you set intention. You show up not with curiosity alone, but with sincerity, with a willingness to see yourself fully. Because the records don't lie, they don't flatter, they don't entertain, they reveal. And that can be confronting. It can also be the most healing experience of your life. Sometimes it comes as a download. Sometimes it's a symbol in a dream. Sometimes it's a memory that hits like lightning, and you know it's not from this life, not imagination, not fantasy. Remembering. The ancient Egyptians knew this. So did the Vedic seers, the Gnostics, the mystics who spoke in symbols and riddles, because truth can't always be explained. It must be felt. They didn't treat the Akasha as myth. They treated it as technology. Living, breathing, responsive, and within that field is your blueprint, your original intention, your karmic loops, your soul family, the specific roles you agreed to play, the gifts you chose to carry, the shadow aspects you committed to integrate, not avoid. But here's the deeper truth, and this is the part most people skip. Accessing your records isn't just about finding hidden information. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hold that truth. Because the more truth you carry, the more responsibility you hold. Not the burdensome kind, the sacred kind. Real power isn't dominance, it's clarity, it's presence, It's remembering who you are even when the world forgets. So how do you access it? You start with silence. Not silence to clear your mind like some blank slate, but silence to listen beyond it. Ask the questions you've been avoiding. Why am I here? What am I not seeing? What am I repeating? What am I ready to remember? And then wait. Don't expect fire from the sky. Sometimes truth comes in whispers, in goosebumps, in an image you can't shake, in a word that hits differently, in a feeling that echoes louder than anything you've heard all week. That's how the Akasha speaks. Not always with sound, but always with resonance. Because this isn't just spirituality, it's memory. And the Akasha doesn't lock you out. You just stopped reading. But the page is still open, and your soul is still waiting. To be seen, to be heard, to be remembered. Because once you begin accessing that deeper knowledge, you don't just understand your life, you begin to shape it. You stop stumbling through the fog. You start walking in purpose. You stop reacting. You begin creating. And the story that once felt like chaos begins to feel like design. Every person in your life, yes, every single one, is here for a reason. Not just the people who love you, support you, and cheer you on, but also the ones who test you, the ones who trigger you, the ones who make you question everything. It's easy to think some relationships are accidents, that the people who hurt you were mistakes, that the toxic boss, the ex who broke your heart, the friend who ghosted you, were just unfortunate events you were supposed to move on from. But what if they weren't random? What if they were written into your story on purpose? Because long before you entered this life, your soul made agreements. Not with ink, not with contracts in the sky, but with intention, with energy, with knowing. You chose to meet certain souls again, not because it would be easy, but because those encounters would awaken something crucial in you. Some were meant to guide you, some were meant to challenge you, and some were meant to crack you wide open. Not to destroy you, but to show you where you were already wounded, where healing was still waiting. This is the part that's hard to hear, but also deeply freeing. The people who hurt you the most, they're often the ones your soul trusted the most, because only someone you trusted on a soul level could break you in just the right way to awaken you. Again, this isn't about spiritualizing abuse or excusing harmful behavior. It's about shifting perspective. It's about seeing your life not just as a human experience, but as a soul curriculum. Look around. Who keeps showing up in your life in different forms, different faces, but the same pattern? Maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's abandonment. Maybe it's control. Maybe it's betrayal. Who are the repeat characters in your story? They aren't random. They're echoes, invitations, lessons in disguise. When you start to view your relationships through the lens of soul contracts, everything changes. Suddenly, conflict isn't an attack, it's a mirror. Pain isn't punishment, it's a portal. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" That one question, that single shift in perception, can unlock lifetimes of healing, because relationships are where your soul contract gets activated loudest. They are the crucible, the classroom, the battlefield, and the sanctuary. Thoth's teachings remind us of the Hermetic truth, as within, so without. That means every person you attract is a reflection of something within you, whether that reflection is meant to reinforce your power or challenge it into growth. Your romantic partners, your parents, your children, your teachers, your enemies, your soulmates. Each one is playing a role you agreed to. Some come to stay forever. Some come to push you into your next chapter. Some love you so deeply they're willing to play the villain just to make sure you evolve. Again, this doesn't mean you stay in toxic situations. It means you recognize them for what they are. Contracts that have served their purpose. And when that purpose is complete, you can release them. With love, with closure, with clarity. This is how you reclaim your agency. You stop being a victim of relationship chaos. You start becoming the conscious participant in relationship evolution. And don't forget, it's not just the painful ones, it's the beautiful connections too. The ones that feel like instant home. The people who finish your sentences. The ones who light up parts of you that had gone dormant. Those people, you've met them before, soul allies. Kindred spirits, echoes from other lifetimes. They come in when you're ready, often at the turning point, the moment when your life is about to change, and they don't just bring love, they bring remembrance. They remind you of your essence. You don't have to force these connections. You don't have to chase them. When you align with your soul contract, the right people appear naturally. Because you agreed to meet on the path, not off it. That's why healing your relational wounds is so important. Not just for peace, but for alignment. When you heal what's unresolved, you stop repeating the same dynamics. You stop attracting the same test in a different body. You graduate from old contracts. You make space for new ones, and those new agreements, they're built on something higher, shared growth, shared purpose, shared truth. So the next time someone shakes you, frustrates you, or stirs up something old, pause. Don't react right away. Get still. Look deeper. Ask yourself, what did I agree to learn here? What is this teaching me about myself? What soul pattern is being revealed? You'll be surprised what you find, because when you see through the lens of the contract, the faces change. You hear the words differently. You respond from wisdom, not wounding. You soften. You strengthen. You evolve. Relationships are more than emotional experiences. They're spiritual agreements. And if you dare to look through that lens, you'll see the truth. Every connection, no matter how brief or how intense, is a whisper from your soul. A reminder of what you came here to learn, who you came here to be, and who you're becoming now. You were never meant to forget forever. The forgetting? That was always temporary, a part of the design, a necessary detour, a veil, not a wall, because forgetting creates the tension needed for awakening. And now, you're beginning to remember. The veil is thinning. The patterns are becoming harder to ignore. The signs more persistent. The whispers louder. And there's a question waiting at the edge of all this remembering. It's the question you've been circling your entire life, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Why did I come here? That question is your invitation. Because once you remember your purpose, truly remember it, you stop trying to fit in. You stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline. You stop chasing approval, applause, or the illusion of security. Because now you know, your soul didn't sign up for mediocrity. It didn't come here to follow a checklist or play a supporting role in someone else's story. It came with a mission, personal, precise, and powerful. And it was never supposed to look like anyone else's. The problem is, somewhere along the way, we were sold a lie, that our worth depends on productivity, that success means stability, that value is measured by external metrics, that the right path looks the same for everyone. And so we traded intuition for instruction, wildness for routine, joy for duty. But your soul contract, it wasn't written by society. It was authored in a higher realm, etched in the stars, signed with sacred intention, designed by the deepest, truest part of you. And every time you felt like something was off, every time you looked around and thought, this can't be it, every time you succeeded but still felt empty, that wasn't failure. That was remembrance trying to break through. That was your contract sending you a signal. The discomfort, the restlessness, the sense of being out of alignment, it's not the problem. It's the compass. It's how your soul lets you know when you've drifted too far from your path. So stop thinking you've lost your purpose. You haven't lost anything. It's still inside you. It's just been buried under layers of noise and expectation. You don't need to go out and find your purpose. You need to uncover it. Because purpose isn't a title or a destination. It's a frequency, a vibration you live from, a signature only you can express. It lives in your energy, your presence, your essence. And the moment you begin to honor that frequency, no matter how different, how strange, how impractical it seems, That's when life begins to unfold with meaning. Not ease, always, but alignment. And here's what most people don't realize. Your soul contract isn't fixed. It's not a locked-in fate. It evolves with you. It's alive. There are themes you agreed to explore, lessons you committed to learn, people you promised to meet, gifts you chose to carry, shadows you came to integrate. But how you live those out, that's your choice. The contract holds the foundation. The brush is in your hand. You're not a prisoner of your path. You're the painter of it. And that brings us to something deeply important. The gifts you carry, those natural talents, curiosities, sensitivities, they're not random. They're not fluff. They're tools your soul selected on purpose. The problem? They're so natural to you, you probably overlook them. They come so easily. You don't think they're special. You assume everyone can do what you do. But that's not true. What comes naturally to you is meant to. It's not a coincidence. It's a breadcrumb. Your childhood fascinations, the weird things you were obsessed with, the hobbies that brought you peace, the passions you pushed aside for real life. These were codes. You weren't just playing, you were remembering. And the more you return to those threads, the more your life starts to realign. The fog begins to lift. The resistance begins to fade. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities appear without force. Why? Because you're no longer trying to be someone else. You're remembering who you already are. And that is when the contract activates. Not when you conform, not when you prove yourself, but when you embody yourself. So if you've been feeling stuck, lost, disconnected, let this be your wake-up call. You're not broken. You're not late. You're not too far gone. You're just being invited back. Back to your truth. Back to your alignment. Back to the mission you came here to fulfill. And it doesn't begin with grinding harder or hustling more. It begins with a whisper, a breath, a choice. To remember, not the story the world gave you, but the one your soul has been trying to tell all along. You didn't come here to be a background character. You didn't come to simply float through life, keep your head down, and hope it all works out. You didn't come to blend in. You didn't come to play small. You came here with a mission, a sacred, soul-level purpose that only you can fulfill, in the way only you can do it. That's the truth most of us were never told. Instead, we were taught to strive for safety, to chase approval, to play by rules that were designed by people who forgot their own soul contracts long ago. You were told to be realistic, to follow the system, to color inside the lines, to not want too much, to not feel too much. And yet, something inside you always knew. Something never quite fit. No matter how well you played the game, something ached. That ache? That's your soul calling you back. Because your soul contract never included mediocrity. It didn't include dimming your light to keep others comfortable. It didn't include staying small so you wouldn't rock the boat. That friction you feel, the tension between the life you were taught to live and the life you were born for, that's the evidence. You were not meant to sleepwalk through your own story. And here's something most people forget. The world needs you awake. It needs your originality, your insight, your fire, your heart, your sacred weirdness. You don't honor your contract by becoming someone else. You honor it by becoming yourself, fully, unapologetically, and on purpose. Because when you do, something shifts. You start to feel the noise around you lose its grip. The opinions of others begin to matter less. The pressure to fit in becomes irrelevant. Peace becomes more valuable than approval. And truth becomes your compass. And guess what? Truth is quiet. It's not always flashy or loud. It doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it's a gentle knowing, a soft yes in your chest, a breath of clarity when everything else feels heavy. But it's real, and it's yours. And once you start choosing it, moment after moment, life begins to unfold in a way that makes sense. Not always easy, but aligned. You start noticing those coincidences that feel too perfect to be chance. You meet the right people at the exact right time. Doors open, energy returns, You're not forcing anymore, you're flowing. That's your contract coming alive. That's your higher self nodding and saying, yes, this is it. And even when life throws you challenges, and it will, you don't spiral like before. Because now, you see it differently. You know that struggle isn't punishment, it's refinement. It's shaping you into the version of yourself that can carry the mission you chose. And if you've made it this far, something has already shifted in you. The remembering has begun. Now, let's be honest, there's only so much we can say in a video. Some truths are simply too big for platforms like this. Some wisdom is too disruptive for algorithms, too sacred for surface-level soundbites. That's why we created Insights Academy, a free newsletter that goes deeper, where we share what can't be said here, what they don't want you to know. When you sign up, you'll also get a digital copy of the Kybalion, one of the most potent Hermetic texts in existence. But it's only available for a limited time. The link is in the description, because the system thrives on your forgetfulness, but your soul thrives on truth. And if you're still listening to this right now, it's not by accident. It's a sign. The mission has already begun. You didn't stumble here randomly. Your higher self brought you. Your contract brought you. This is your wake-up call, your nudge, your remembering. So stop waiting for someone to give you permission. Stop waiting for everything to make perfect sense before you take the first step. You already know what you need to do. You just have to trust what's always been inside you. Because your soul didn't come here to be silent. It came to speak, to serve, to shine. You've always had the power. You've always had the map. You just forgot where you put it. Now it's time to pick it back up. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now, the mission is already in motion, and the world is waiting. This is the moment you reclaim your role in the story, not the one handed to you, not the one society expected from you, but the one you chose before the veil, before the forgetting, before the noise of the world drowned out your original voice. You didn't come here to be passive. You didn't come to be a supporting character in someone else's dream. You came here to embody the dream you wrote long before you arrived. That's what a soul contract is. Not an obligation, an opportunity. To wake up, to remember, to create. And maybe right now, you feel like you've gone too far off course, like you missed your chance, like you wasted time. Let's be clear, you haven't. Your soul doesn't operate on a linear clock. It doesn't count missed deadlines or lost years. It counts growth. It counts readiness. And if you're still here, still breathing, still asking questions, still seeking, then guess what? You're right on time. Everything you've been through, the heartbreaks, the failures, the breakdowns, the detours, they weren't delays. They were activation points. Moments of necessary unraveling. Sacred disruptions designed to strip away who you're not so you could remember who you are. And now you're ready. Ready to stop running from the very calling that's been chasing you in dreams, in signs, in quiet moments when you can't distract yourself anymore. Ready to stop dimming your light just to make other people comfortable. Ready to stop pretending you don't know why you're here, when deep down, you've always known. That inner voice, that pull, that ache? It's not confusion, it's memory. It's your contract whispering, now. But the world you were born into isn't built to support that remembering. It's designed to distract you, to keep you reactive, consuming, comparing, compliant. You were trained to play small, to chase validation, to settle for comfort over truth. But your contract never agreed to those terms, and the friction you feel, the resistance, the burnout, the dissonance, that's the signal. That's your soul saying, there's more than this. And there is. There's a life aligned with your original blueprint. A life that flows because it fits, not because it's easy, but because it's right. And that life becomes available the moment you choose truth over approval. Alignment over attention. Purpose over performance. You'll know you're getting closer when peace replaces panic. When joy begins to return. When the outer noise fades and the inner knowing gets louder. You don't need all the answers. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start, because the moment you step onto the path, it meets you halfway. Synchronicities line up. The right people appear. Opportunities unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you aligned with them. That's the power of remembering. And yes, there will still be challenges. But now you'll face them differently. You'll recognize the pattern. You'll see the contract. You'll move with awareness instead of fear. This isn't the end of the journey. This is the beginning. Because now that you remember, you get to rewrite what comes next. Not based on who the world told you to be, but based on who your soul came here to become. That's not just healing. That's liberation. And it starts with a choice: to trust your gifts, to honor your energy, to follow the threads of curiosity, joy, and resonance, to stop living someone else's story and start living your own. Because the world doesn't need more replicas. It needs you, fully expressed, fully activated, fully awake. So here's the final truth. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to remember. The real you, the soul you, the one who helped design this entire life, is still here, still watching, still guiding, still ready. You haven't missed your moment. You are the moment, and the mission. It's already begun. So if this message resonated with you, tell us in the comments. Let us know what you're remembering. Let us know you're awake. And if you're ready to go deeper, where the public can't follow, join us in the Insights Academy. The link is below. It's free. And for a limited time, you'll also receive a digital copy of the Kybalion, a key to unlocking the Hermetic wisdom that's been waiting for you. This is your invitation to rise, to return, to remember. Because the world needs what you came here to give, and only you can give it.